Alright, so now we have Family Guy from Season 1, Episode 4. And this is called My Nova Murder. I think there was a show, actually, because they're ripping off a show called My Nova Matter. So I think this is what it's supposed to reference. A lot of the episodes, like the titles, involve deaths, I've noticed. So I just want to mention that. And this episode came out on April 25th, 1999. Um, so the episode starts out um, when it plays this Mentos commercial that pretty much influenced when Abraham Lincoln was murdered at that theater, um, at the Ford Theater. So that's pretty much. I thought that was actually really funny. I actually laughed at that, and everyone who's watching it, all the Griffins are watching it, is like, "Oh, this is not a commercial. Doesn't want to make me buy it. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do." And Meg's voice, I just cannot stand her voice. Like, her voice just sounds awful. Um, and then Peter just gets like hypnotized and says, "Must kill Lincoln." I thought that was pretty funny. So then it plays the theme song, and then it cuts to, I forget how it starts. I think it starts when Lewis is having like a fantasy when she's playing a piano, and Peter's supporting her. At first, you're not supposed to think it's a fantasy, but eventually, once I saw Peter like being all nice, I actually knew it was a fantasy. And then the reason I actually knew it was a fantasy was because you see Stewie throw his baby bottle at her, because he's teething, so he's all pissed about it. It says, and he's in pain. Then Peter, Brian, Quagmire, and we meet a new character. Technically we didn't meet. He's not new, but this is the first time we've actually seen him. His name is Cleveland. If you don't remember when they did the whole trial thing, when Peter had to go to court for stealing Social Security money, he was like one of the background guys in there. But this is the first time he actually talked or anything. Um, and Peter kind of isn't drunk, but he has sort of a buzz because he's drinking these beers. Um, and there was a guy that was on the cover. I don't remember his name though. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, it doesn't say. So then, yeah. So he talks. There was a guy that was on the cover of the beers that has the name. I think it's something Patriot. And she says, "If you guys were all beers, I drink you." And he didn't remember Brian's name. So then, Cleveland, who talks really slow, like when he talks, he just talks monotone and kind of slow. If you heard him talk before, in the first season, you know what I'm talking about. But he's like, "Oh, that's even funnier than the joke you told in the bar last night." So he's trying. So he cuts to the flashback, and Peter's trying to tell this joke about like a Jewish guy and a Chinese guy walk into a bar, and then he looks around and he sees Jewish and Chinese people in there, and then he says, "And they have a naked priest," and there's a naked priest right in front of him. So I thought that was funny. I don't even think that it was because of the joke. It was just what a coincidence they'd all be in the same bar when he's telling that joke. So then, no, I don't know what that was. So then, what does it happens next? Peter and Brian come home, and Cleveland was talking about how he has to get home because he has to help his wife clip the hedges and treat her nicely. Um, and Peter's like, "No, the men go home because the women enjoy actually cleaning up. The women actually enjoy doing stuff like that." And then it cuts to Lewis plunge in the toilet. What a coincidence. Um, so Peter comes home and he makes a mess in less than a minute. Um, then Lewis is like, you should help out around the house sometime. You should do some of this house cleaning because Peter claims that Lewis likes to do this stuff. He's talking about he's like, you love to do all the house cleaning. You're one lucky girl, and Brian stops him before he can finish. And Lewis says um, that she does it because she loves her family, and he makes a joke about how it's Peter and her family sitting in a tree. I think I don't think that had happened yet, but it's kind of, coincidence. So then she wants Peter to go do the laundry or something. He's like, you remember the last time I tried to do the laundry? And he's trying to find his sock, and he ends up going in Anonia. Talks about the last time he tried to change Stewie's diaper. He did that one. And then she wants Peter to go drop Chris off at his game, so he does. And then he meets Quagmire, who's with the soccer moms, and they spend time together. And Peter was supposed to come home because Lewis had a piano lesson and he had to watch Stewie. And Lewis tells Stewie that the pain's gonna pass eventually, in the future. So Stewie gets this great idea that he's gonna build a time machine, go into the future, so that way he won't be teething anymore, which is actually a great idea. So then Peter what else? Peter and Quagmire are just drinking beers and stuff. And Chris, when the soccer ball came to him, he caught it, and you're not supposed to use your hands in soccer. So one guy you think is a male, Tom, trashes Peter. They get into it like an argument, and Peter punches him right in the face. And we find out it was a pregnant woman, but you wouldn't believe that. So I actually think it's justified because she had like a deep voice and all of that. We do see him again, and I actually forget he's a woman. Well, she's a woman. I think it was supposed to be. I think that was the joke. So we find out Peter gets under house arrest for it, and he can't go anywhere because he has the bracelet on his ankle, and they're monitoring him. And when it shows him monitoring him, it shows like that thing with it shows the pinball machine thing, which I thought was funny because Peter's just running around his house. And then he talks about that scene with Lewis and stuff, and Lewis says, "Well, why don't we have like a nice romantic dinner?" So Peter agrees, and he goes down to get beers for this dinner, and he meets the guy that he's been drinking these sort of beers, like the Patriot beers, and he meets the guy that's on the cover of them, and he comes up with this great idea to build a bar downstairs, and Peter says it's not a bad idea. And then he asks, if I walk through you, does that count as us having sex? And he's like, wow. So I thought that was funny. So then, what happened? So it shows this montage of Peter building the bar and Lewis making the dinner. And Peter doesn't show for the date. And he shows that he's made the bar, and Lewis is pissed that that's what he was doing. And then Peter has all his friends down there, and he's just pretty much treating Lewis like crap now. Lewis has more dishes to do now because Peter has this bar, and he wanted her to make the, what's it called, like some sort of meal for him, like deviled eggs or something. And she just gets pissed. And then she tells Peter to watch the kids while she takes a bath. And then when she's taking the bath, it shows that same flashback again, except a little bit different. Peter's actually treating her nicely. Same thing. Her playing the piano. And then Peter takes his kids to the bar. And Stewie gets, like, drunk. That was awesome. And Stewie is trying to make the blueprints for the time machine, and then Chris is like one of the boxers there, and Lewis is pissed that he did this, that he brought her piano down there, and Peter makes this BS excuse that he brought the piano down there so Lewis could perform. So she does, because she was gonna threaten to leave him. If she said, "You get rid of the bow, I'm gonna leave you." So then she plays, and he tells her friends to pretend that they like it, but they're not pretending. They pretty much are like in love with Lewis. They're hitting on her, and Peter gets jealous about this, um, which I thought was pretty funny. So then, and earlier, as you can tell from the thumbnail, Peter was watching Sesame Street, and the episode was based on H, and it showed the scene from that when Bert. I actually forgot about Bert. We found out someone's head got blown off at a place called H, and Ernie's like, I really wish you'd stop drinking, Bert. And Bert's like, oh yeah, well, Ernie, I wish you stop eating cookies at bed. I thought that was actually a really funny scene. That's why it's the thumbnail of this video, because it was like one of my favorite parts of the episode. So then Peter tells Lewis that was just like a one-time thing. Your friends, he tells him that his friends were just pretending. Lewis was happy that she did that too, because she felt like she could be her. And she's like, I'm gonna be on my game tonight. George Ozo's sinning again. Everyone's hitting on her, even Cleveland and Quagmire. And Quagmire actually doesn't say, "That's a girl" or something. That's a woman. And he's actually like, someone's just showing him pictures of other things. And Brian tells him that he better be protective of his wife, because everyone's going to be hitting on Lewis. And says that's what Brian would be doing, because he's a jealous wage. So then someone's talking to Lewis, and he's referencing that she has nice tits, but by saying nice melons, nice Hooters, and she's actually holding that stuff. I don't know why there was owls in the Stop and Shop, but okay. So then Peter tells her that he can't perform, and she can't perform anymore, but Lewis doesn't listen. And then all the wives are pissed at Peter because their husbands are hitting on Lewis and going to this bar instead of being with them. And by the way, Peter's off house arrest, by the way, and he knows that. Yeah, so yeah, at this point too. So then Lewis is performing, and Stewie's blueprints, he didn't want anybody to see him, get revealed, and he sees that there's a time machine, so Lewis is now going to make the time machine to stop himself from even making the blueprints in the first place. And then Peter, and then all the wives come up, and they get mad at Lewis, and Lewis says, well, did you know that I have to do all the house cleaning and stuff, and this is my only place I'm happy, and my husband and Peter doesn't help me with any of it, so the wives didn't know that, so they get pissed at him. And then Quagmire was smoking a cigarette, and he throws it in the trash, and the place catches on fire. Hold on, I got a text. Alright, and then, what happens next? Oh, so then the place catches on fire, and they don't know that. Lewis and Peter get into their argument, so they realize it, and Peter throws a fire extinguisher. Instead of putting the fire out, he just throws it, and the place collapses. And then Stewie, Peter says he's a changed man now. He's going to treat her better now. He's going to help her out around the house. So you think everything's going to be all fine, and it was for a while. And then Stewie goes back in time, though, and goes back to the scene where he had to go pick up. Well, Lewis is trying to convince him to go pick up Chris from his to take Chris to a soccer game, and he trips on Stewie's time machine and he hurts his leg. So he pretends he fakes to hurt his leg. So he pretends he can't go, and Stewie gets pissed that his time machine's broken. So he starts teething again, and it shows his teeth, and they get into it, and he's like, let's just bite his tongue. So that was the whole episode. Overall, I thought it was another good one. I actually really enjoyed this one as well. It was really funny. And that's my thoughts. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you want to check out more content from me on this channel, you can click right there to subscribe. And that's pretty much it, guys. See you later.